Out just after high school. I have an uncle who's gay, and so he's in the theater world, and I was studying theater as well. So he was my mentor and role model, and helped me make a transition into the gay and lesbian world of New York in the late '80s, early '90s. So I had a very easy coming out. Well, on some jobs, yes, and some jobs, no. I did commercials in New York where people in the late '80s, early '90s were not all that comfortable with out gay people. But by '85, '86, '88, there was this movement, because mainly of the AIDS crisis, of people to be out so that people would understand how much our community was being affected by the epidemic. So one of the tactics was to get more and more people to come out and tell their stories and how the AIDS crisis was affecting their lives. It's also what brought me to ACT UP, which was an organization founded by the playwright Larry Kramer. And that's who I really gravitated toward, because I felt a lot of anger and sadness from all my friends who were dying, and close second family members even. So the motto of ACT UP was to turn anger into action. And so I became involved doing things like shutting down the New York Stock Exchange to protest the incredibly high price of the only AIDS drugs available at that time. So that continued on. We chained ourselves to the VIP balcony and drowned out the opening bell with Marine air horns, and then showered phony money across the stockbrokers' heads that said, "Fuck your profiteering, sell Burroughs Welcome," which was the manufacturer of AZT, which was one of the few efficacious drugs at the time that cost a fortune and was not even a very good drug. It was also an orphan drug, which means that there were no R&D costs associated with it. It came off the shelves from another project where they were trying to develop it as a cancer drug, and then used it to try and treat HIV in the early days. And for that, we were arrested and also booked and fingerprinted by the FBI and New York State Police. But the judge at the trial called us heroes, acting for the public good. So, of course, we all were released and applauded by the court. Well, as a television producer, I did some of the first all gay and lesbian programming. We did a series of specials for Comedy Central called Out There, which were the first television shows that featured all gay and lesbian comics and comedians, and was considered radical at the time, which led to other people coming out, like Ellen DeGeneres. And then, of course, we did Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, which broke, positive gay and lesbian imagery into the public mind on national television. And shows like that allowed other shows like Will and Grace to go on the air, because we proved that you could make money doing those types of shows. Yeah, in the beginning, early on during the course of the AIDS epidemic, Hollywood wasn't saying much about AIDS. So we shut down the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion Oscar awards ceremony at one point by planting people inside of the Oscars and holding a very large protest outside. After that, there was a little bit of tension, but Hollywood came around and started to make films like Philadelphia, the Jonathan Demme piece. And well, you know, they were made for a straight community, and that the gays always died at the end. At least they were out there. But that gave rise to other films like Brokeback Mountain and now Call Me By Your Name, where in Call Me By Your Name, the gays don't die in the end. So we're making progress. Well, you talk about people that were contentious at first but then came around. The producer David Geffen, who stayed very quiet about his sexuality. He had been bi at one point and boyfriends with Cher, but was mainly gay. And he and a gang that he was part of, that were all gay men, in Hollywood were often referred to as the Lavender Mafia, but no one talked openly about the fact that they were all gay. After the Oscar action, where we basically said everybody needs to come out, I got a phone call from David Geffen. And we talked about what was going on out there, because as a wealthy man who's cloistered in a community where no one ever questions what he's doing, he's not in contact with the rank and file, the little people who are making the films. And after about a 45-minute discussion, he really got it. And to his credit, he went on to do all sorts of amazing things in terms of raising money for causes connected with taking care of people with AIDS, and the LGBT fight for civil rights as well. So a lot of people, it just took time. It took time to understand and know that they could do things. It didn't have to be shutting down the New York Stock Exchange, but it could be funding an organization or taking care of creating a hospice. So they did come around, and as Larry Kramer often said, you know, we are going to have to do it for our own community because they are not going to do it for us. And that proved to be very true in the early days. Well, I think that one thing is we should never take for granted what we have now, and we also should pay it forward. We should carry that gift to other countries that aren't as lucky as ours. So anytime we have the ability or the possibility to uplift our brothers and sisters abroad, especially in places like Russia, we need to do that. We need to bring LGBTR freedom to everyone we can. So I think that's our next step. We have to, you know, bring that message to the rest of the world.
Perfect. Thank you.